Welcome back. We're going to go ahead and talk about 10.4, which is area and circumference. And there's a lot of formulas available for you on pages 104 and 105. Please don't worry about necessarily memorizing all these. I believe those are going to be on your little sheet that you're allowed to use. Okay, and I'm not going to do a whole bunch of examples from this because it's just plugging some things into a formula. But I wanted to do a few of these, so I'm going to go ahead and do a few of these, starting with example 1. Okay, but the biggest thing I want you guys to remember is whenever we have area, that means we have our units, but we got to write them as units squared or square units, whatever those unit is. So remember, for perimeter, we just left the unit as it was. So if it was feet, we just wrote feet. Now, and for area, you want to make sure that if you have feet, you got to go ahead and write it as feet squared. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at example 1. And I have what will it cost to carpet a rectangular floor? So I have a rectangle that measures 18 feet by 21 feet. Okay. If the carpet costs $16 per square foot or square yard, so $16 per square yard. Because my carpet is in yards, that means I need to go ahead and convert my sides first. These guys need to be hit and converted to yards first. So I have 18 divided by 3 because there's 3 feet in a yard, or you could do the standard conversion, and that is going to go ahead and get me 6. So this is actually 6 yards. And then I got 21 divided by 3, which gives me 7. So this is 7 yards. Okay. And when I go ahead and to get the area for a rectangle, it's length times width. So I have 7 times 6 or 6 times 7, however you want to think about it, which gives me 42. All right. And in order to find out how much the carpet's going to cost, I take that 42, multiply it by the price of the carpet, which is 16. And it gives me $672. That's bargain carpet right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's bargain carpet. Okay. So we just had a rectangle, and it's going to be just fine. And we know this length times width, pretty easy to go ahead and do. Okay, and there's a lot of rectangle type shapes on that page. So I'm going to go ahead and move over to something else. And I'm going to go ahead and look at example 6. In example 6, I'm only going to go ahead and do part A. I'll leave part B for you. Okay, and I want to go ahead and look at a triangle, and I want to find the area of the triangle with correct units. So I have a triangle. Okay, it's 8 inches here, my right angle, and 14 inches here. Okay, and the formula for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. You can also think of this formula as base times height divided by 2. Sometimes that makes life a little bit easier. Okay, so I have my height is 8. My base will always be that bottom piece is 14. And I'm going to go ahead and take that and divide it by 2. And when I go ahead and do the multiplication, I got 56 inches squared. Okay, so all you guys are doing is taking stuff, plugging it into a formula, and going ahead and just doing the mathematics. So pretty easy to go ahead and do. Part B is a little more challenging, and what I want you to think about in part B is that you have 2 different shapes going on in part B. You have a piece that looks like a rectangle, and then you have a piece that looks like a right triangle. So use that to your advantage and give that one a try. And you should go ahead and be able to do that. But of course, if you have any questions on any of these, you guys know that you can go ahead and reach out to me, and I will go ahead and help you out. Okay? The last part of this we're going to look at, this is kind of where my focus is we're going to go ahead and find something with circles. So we're going to talk about something called circumference. Okay, and circumference is just a fancy way of saying perimeter for a circle. Okay, so we're looking at the outside of the circle, finding out how far around it is. Okay, and then area for a circle is still called area, that doesn't change. But circumference, remember we're talking about when we're talking about polygons and we're finding perimeter, we're looking at how number of sides. A circle doesn't have any sides, so we had to call it something different, call it circumference, okay? Now with a circle, the thing before we give the formulas to remember is we have two different distances. We have a center of our circle, and we could take a line from the center and draw it to anywhere on the outside of the circle. At any point, it doesn't matter. And that's something that's we refer to as R, and that's our radius. Okay. We could also, from any point on the circle, draw from one end through the center to the other side, which we'll refer to as D, and that's called the diameter. Okay. So basically, if I took two of my radiuses, or took my radius and doubled it, right, then I would have my diameter, okay? So the formula for circumference, there's two of them depending on what you're given. If we're given the radius, it's 2 pi r, which makes sense because radius is twice. If I do it twice and draw another side to it, I get my diameter, okay? So if I'm given the radius, I'm going to use 2 pi r. Okay, if I'm given the diameter, it's just pi times the diameter. So that 2r is the same as the d. So they're really the same formula, they just look a little bit different. Okay, for area, it's always going to be the same, pi r squared. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of circles. Okay, we're not going to go ahead and get too crazy with it, but let's look at two of them. I'm going to start off looking at example 5 on page 108. Okay, and I want to find the circumference and the area. So I need to find both of these things. For a circle whose diameter is equal to 10 inches, and I want to express each answer in terms of pi. Okay, so first I want to use in terms of pi, and then I want to find an approximation or rounding. Okay, so there's two different things we're going to do here. We're going to keep it as the pi symbol to start off with, and then we're going to go ahead and convert pi into some sort of approximation on a calculator. Okay, so I know for circumference, remember circumference here, I'm given diameter, I'm going to use this one. Okay, so circumference is equal to pi d. I'm given my diameter, okay, and to express it in terms of pi, for circumference, it would be just 10 times pi. Not a big deal, okay? And then when I go ahead and use the pi symbol, okay, so you don't want to type in, I know we were used to using 3.14, but remember pi goes on and on and on and on and never stops, okay? So the pi symbol in your calculator, okay, you'll see it right under the clear, but it's in clear button, but it's in blue, okay? So you're going to hit the second key and hit that little arrow like this, and that will give you the pi symbol. And so when you hit enter, it will go ahead and use as many digits as the calculator can, okay? And it says it only wants it to the nearest tenth. That's not too bad, Okay, we could do this one by hand. All right, so if we go ahead and multiply 10 times 3.14, it's basically just going to move the decimal for us, and we get 31.415, blah, 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 which we're going to go ahead and round to 31.4 inches. Now this is circumference, so circumference is like perimeter, so it gets no squared. Okay, now we need to go ahead and find the area. Remember, the area is pi r squared. Okay, where we have the diameter. Okay, so we have to take our diameter and divide it by 2 to get my radius. Okay, so 10 divided by 2 is 5, and I'm going to use my radius of 5. So I need to find the value with pi first, so I have pi 5 squared, okay, which means I have 25 pi. That is my circumference. Okay, and now if I want to go ahead and find my area, oh, I'm sorry, I found the area first. Found the area first. I'm losing it. Okay, I needed to find the area. We already found the circumference. So my area is 25 pi squared. I'm sorry about that. And then I want to go ahead and use my approximation and use my pi symbol. And so when I go ahead and multiply it times pi, I get 78.53. I only need to round to the tenths place, but there's a 9 after that. And so I have 78.5, and this will be inches squared. Okay, so this one we had to find the circumference and the area. I lost my train of thought for a second, I'm sorry. And that's the end of the problem. So my area is here, my circumference is here, and if we leave it in terms of pi, we technically should have units on that. Okay, and that's example 5. Okay, the other one I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and look at example 8. Sorry, I need to add a page here. Okay, example 8, and this is on page 109. Okay, and I want which of the following is a better way to buy a large pizza with a 14-inch diameter for $12, or a medium pizza with a 7-inch diameter for $5. Okay, so my large pizza, I want to go ahead and look at my diameter here. So I want to go ahead and look at my circumference. Remember, my circumference is pi d because I have my diameter. All right, so I want to go ahead and for the large pizza, I am going to pay $12, and my circumference is 14 pi. 14 pi. Okay. And then I want to go ahead and I want to look at the area, not the circumference. I want to look at the area, which means it should be radius squared. Okay. So I need the area, I need radius squared. So I need pi r squared. So this should be 7. Let's erase that and make it look better. Okay, so 7 squared pi. Okay, for the medium, I need the radius of that. That is going to be 3.5. And it's $5. Okay, so if I go ahead and do the math, I'm doing the math right now, I get 0.0779, and I'm going to kind of stop there. For the medium, And I take 5. Oops, that didn't work out real well. And then 5 divided by that gives me 0.129. Which one is the better deal? In this case, it is the large pizza. Okay. So that's the end of this section. If you have any questions or concerns about anything I said, or if it was unclear, please reach out to me. We're going to do our last section of chapter 10 next, and make sure that you practice all of them. And again, reach out if you have any questions.